Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. The governing Law and Justice Party held a convention today in the town of Kadzidło. The Prime Minister of Poland, Mateusz Morawiecki, and the party leader, Jarosław Kaczyński, both made speeches about the role of Polish farmers from smaller towns. Kaczyński stressed the importance of fighting for Polish interests in the European Union.
We want to increase our contribution in the pool shared every 7 years for agriculture. It amounted to 8% when it comes to the past 7 years. 8% of this pool for agriculture. I want to say that we will fight more. We also want to take care about the rural development program. We will fight for Poland to get the most from all of the European countries. And we can make it happen. And I think that my words can be proven by our actions. If you take a look at our social politics, the 5 campaign promises that we made some time ago and the one that has been announced lately, you'll see that great amount of money is going to the Polish countryside, and that's a fact.
Rozwoju obszarów wiejskich.
Twórcy III Rzeczpospolitej zakładali, że małe, drobne przedsiębiorstwa rolne.
Creators of the Third Republic of Poland announced that small rural companies, rural producers and so on will develop just like big corporations, especially those from abroad. And in order to help these small companies to get to the average level, because size matters here, we prepared a regulation. And thanks to this, a small firm will get a premium that amounts to 500,000 zlotys, 500,000 zlotys. They will get this money to develop thanks to the Rural Development Program. This amount of money will help small companies develop and function on this market.
500 000 złotych, 500 000 złotych. Współpraca, wspólnota.
Mutual cooperation, building good relations between a town and the countryside, convincing other people to buy Polish food and creating conditions for Poles living in towns to buy our own products. This is important, and not trying to create a scandal in order to get some fame. And we all know what for. There are many problems, there always are. There are climate problems, globalization of the market, and the game that's ongoing in the European Union. These are the problems and always will be, but thanks to the support of the Law and Justice Party, will be able to solve them all.
Pewna gra, która się toczy w Unii Europejskiej.
The European Coalition, a grouping of opposition parties that have come together to fight next month's elections to the European Parliament, also held a convention today, but in Warsaw. The parties included in the coalition are Civic Platform, the Polish People's Party, the Democratic Left Alliance, the Modern Party and the Greens.
During his speech, the leader of Civic Platform said that Poles will have a big decision to make during the upcoming parliamentary elections.
Either we'll have a strong democratic Poland in Europe, or what we have today, a state that is on its way to leaving the European Union. Either Poland will become one of the leaders of the West, or will be drifting to the East. Either we, the Poles, will reach the Western European standards of living, or will drift away from them. This is a big choice.
The Polish People's Party's leader, Jarosław Kosiniak-Kamysz, appealed to Law and Justice Party politicians to start helping Poles to solve their problems and not causing them new ones.
Poland should be sitting at the main table in the European Union and dealing the cards, and not to be a pushover for other countries. We have to have a strong position. We have to take the most money we could for Polish businessmen, families and farmers. That's the only way to reach our goals.
On the other hand, the Democratic Left Alliance's leader, Włodzimierz Czarzasty, appealed to ask whether the European coalition has a better plan than the Law and Justice Party or not.
Podstawowa różnica między nami a PiS-em jest taka, że my wierzymy w silną Europę, bardzo mocno zintegrowaną Europę. Europa, która będzie gwarantowała wszystkim obywatelkom i obywatelom we wszystkich krajach pewne minima.
Mamy plany obywatelskie.
The basic difference between us and the Law and Justice Party is that we believe in a strong and united Europe, the Europe that will guarantee every citizen, young people and old, security. I don't want anyone to make Poland leave the European Union.
According to a political commentator Krzysztof Karnowski, the European coalition doesn't know how to handle Europe's biggest problems.
We have plans for our citizens, and that's the most important thing. We also have an experience, because we used to work on the previous state budget, which was beneficial for Poland, and we want to do it again. We didn't hear anything new. It's simply another portion of aggressive rhetoric. This program is contradictory to the offer of other parties, and this convention has shown that they can't can't make this program without conflict.
Today's convention is part of the coalition's preparation for the European parliamentary elections on May 26th, in which the Poles will choose 52 members of the European Parliament. The European Parliament elections across the entire European Union will take place on May 23rd and 26th.
Polish businessman Marek Falenta, sentenced to imprisonment in relation to the secret recording of conversations of Polish politicians in a restaurant in 2014, has been detained in Valencia by Spanish police working with the help of Polish officers. He is shortly to be brought to Poland. The Polish police did not disclose the details of the transport arrangements, citing security reasons.
You may try to hide, but why bother? Marek Falenta was detained. We could have been talking about the chase a lot sooner, but this is not a reality show. Pursuit specialists from the Polish police force prefer to act, this time alongside Spanish police. As I said, Polish police prevailed as usual. Marek Falenta was detained. I direct words of praise towards the officers involved in the capture. The entire action began when the arrest warrant was filed. Before that, our hands were tied and we couldn't perform any actions, only administrative work with regards to this case. Only after we laid this groundwork could we put our efforts into action. That is also when we extended our full operational resources, and those activities led us to believe from the outset that the detainee might have been hiding abroad. Here is where Marek Falenta was completely surprised, since he made it absolutely certain that he was in hiding and he did not expect he could be found. However, we must remember that the Polish police is a professional force, and as such it did not find it too difficult to apprehend a person who in the beginning did not even believe he could be traced. That is where that threat of taking his own life came about, but we will not go into too much detail at this point. We must remember that in this particular case we are dealing with third-party accomplices. We are analyzing everything step by step, each day, hour by hour, in order to address the fact that the person who is aiding Marek Falenta will have to face justice.
United States President Donald Trump visited a newly completed 30-foot tall, or 9 meters tall, 2.2 mile or 3.5 kilometer long section of the border wall at Calexico, California. While in the border area, Trump was greeted by border security personnel and held a brief news conference during which he thanked the Mexican president for really helping Mexico by apprehending potential illegal migrants on the Mexican side of the border.
In recent days, Mexico has taken a more rigorous approach to interviewing and registering immigrants from Central America, Haiti and Cuba. Previously, the Mexican government handed out humanitarian visas freely to allow people to stay and work legally in Mexico. However, it backed away from the policy after a surge in the numbers of those requesting the documents and amid criticism from Washington.
Mexico's been doing a great job. I want to thank the president of Mexico. He's the first one. He's really been doing the job. He's helping Mexico, too, not only economically and not only because I won't be forced to shut it down or do the tariffs, but he really is helping Mexico. He's doing a great thing for his country. So I want to thank, through your camera, I want to thank him.
A Mexican federal police plane flew dozens of Haitians home. On Friday, the Migration Institute said on Twitter that 57 Cubans had been sent back to Cuba by plane that morning. Last week, more than 60 Cubans were flown home. Meanwhile, 20 states have filed a motion to block Trump's attempt to divert federal funds through declaration of emergency declaration. New York Attorney General Letitia James, a Democrat, said on Friday. The U.S. House of Representatives on Friday also filed a lawsuit challenging Trump's ability to seize the funds, according to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, also a Democrat.
That's it from the news. Thank you for watching. Do stay with us for the weather, business and more programmes. But from me it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.
Good evening, I'm Paulina Otterstein and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Quite a warm night ahead of us, up to 11 degrees in Krakow, Katowice, also warm around Wrocław, Zielona Góra, Szczecin and up in Koszalin 10 degrees Celsius with clear skies. In those places 8 degrees will be seen in central Poland and some showers will appear in the area of Bydgoszcz. The coolest tonight will be Białystok as well as in Olsztyn and Rzeszów. Now let's check what will happen tomorrow in Poland. So very nice and sunny, as we can see, up to 21 degrees in Krakow, at 20 degrees in Katowice. Also the area of Wrocław, Zielona Góra will be nice, sunny and warm. The coolest will be the area of Białystok with 14 degrees, and 15 degrees will be seen in Gdańsk. And if we look at the next 3 days, we will see that there will be a significant cool down on Tuesday and Wednesday, but Monday will still be nice and warm, up to 20 degrees. On Tuesday, 12 degrees in central Poland, the minimum of 7 in the northeast. And on Wednesday, much cooler, again 8 degrees, and all over the country almost, except 9 degrees will be seen in the southwest. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon.
Welcome to Poland Daily Business. I'm Richardson, and this is The Business. Warsaw Chopin Airport has begun operating a new airport collaborative decision-making system. The ACDM system is an information exchange system that streamlines flight handling and ensures the punctuality of flight operations. Warsaw Airport has thus joined dozens of airports that operate this state-of-the-art system. The European Organisation for the Safety of Air Navigation, Eurocontrol, recommends that airports adopt the ACDM system. The Romanian presidency of the European Union has decided that the European Parliament's negotiations with the European Commission and the Council of the European Union about the regulations adopted by the Parliament regarding road transport companies will not take place next week, as had been expected. This means that the new Parliament, elected at the May parliamentary elections, and the new European Council will decide on the final shape of the controversial regulations, an outcome favoured by Poland.
You are watching Poland Daily Business Edition. We are at Katowice Economic Congress. Our guest is John Llewellyn Armstrong, Counselor of Economic Affairs of the United States Embassy. Sir, thank you for coming to our studio.
Oh, it's great to be here. And here in Katowice.
Katowice is a fantastic place for business. It's a fantastic booming place of Polish economy. But let's start from the Polish-American relationships. We've heard that this government wants to improve these economic relationships and sort of put it on a new level. How do you see it from the American perspective?
Well, I have to say right now the relationship is very good. I'd look at a couple of things on the statistics. First of all, we've been a strong investor in Poland since 1990. Our companies took the risk. We also had the Polish-American Enterprise Fund, later changed the Polish-American Freedom Foundation. And investments since 1990, the American Chamber of Commerce estimates $43 billion. Another area that's improved, I would say, more recently is bilateral trade, and it seems to be advancing on both sides. On one hand, according to the statistic from the GUS, the Polish Statistical Agency for last year, the United States is now the 10th market for Polish exports. And perhaps even it'll move into number 9 in 2018. We'll see. But that's a definite improvement over the past, and I'd have to, well, there's credit to the Polish exporters, certainly to the Polish Agency for Investment and Trade has something to do with that, and there's the creation of the Polish Chamber of Commerce in the United States, which I also think is a welcome sign and a sign that the relationship is approaching a new level, because the third area that I'd say things are very good and the tendency continues to be very strong is in Polish investment in the U.S. I was the trade officer at the embassy 20 years ago. At that time, Polish investments in the U.S. were very rare, as we would say, as rare as hen's teeth. Now there's almost $1 billion in Polish investment, and matter of fact, this morning at one of the panels, Minister Naimski mentioned that there may be in the near future a Polish investment in liquefied natural gas in the U.S. So that's, in all those areas, we're doing very well.
Well, this is a very interesting topic you mentioned, the Polish investment in the United States. are there any sectors that are predominant in this Polish business people who want to invest in states?
Well, a couple of things that I think are notable. I haven't run an analysis of all the investments, but there's a company, and I won't mention any names, that is very strongly invested in copper, that has a large investment in Nevada.
Yeah.
Another company that has, if I'm not mistaken, produces candles in the United States and such things, and has recently signed a contract with a very large retailer in the United States to sell those products in that retailer's stores, which are in every state in the Union.
Copper in Nevada. What company can it be? Well, who might guess? Let's go to the energy market, because this is like a hot topic, because it's also very strongly connected to the politics. As you know, Poland is net importer of energy. We are buying a lots of fuel, both gas and oil from Russia, and obviously we need to balance. How advanced are the works on Polish import of energy sources from states?
I think they're doing very well. We had the first deliveries last year of liquefied natural gas, or one last year, and I believe there's been one this year. A medium-term contract was signed for, if I'm not mistaken, 9 deliveries over the space of 4 or 5 years. That was signed in November. So that's great. It means energy diversification for Poland, and it means jobs for Americans on our Gulf Coast. So it's a win-win situation. Another area I'd point out on energy is, since we've started petroleum exports again after a hiatus of approximately 30 years, maybe even a little more, there have been 2 spot deliveries, I believe, to Poland. So that's another area where there's also the energy from a different source, not from Russian oil, but from U.S. oil. I think there's room to grow. As I mentioned, there's a possibility of a Polish company investing in liquefied natural gas in the U.S. We'll see. We want investors. Bring it on. We're open for Polish investors.
Final question. What about Nord Stream 2? Oh, Nord Stream 2, sorry.
Nord Stream 2. As our government, the United States government, has made perfectly clear, Nord Stream 2 does not make sense from an economic point of view. It's a political project. I think the conclusions of that and our opposition to it and our questions about it, our very serious questions, are quite clear.
So we will see. Apparently, this message haven't come true to the Germans and others who wants to finance this project.
Well, I believe in redemption, and I believe people can turn around even from the worst mistakes.
Well, I also share this belief. Thank you very much. John Lowell Armstrong of United States Embassy was our guest. Thank you very much, sir. And please watch us next time.
Good evening, I'm Paulina Otterstein, and welcome again to Poland Daily Weather. A good piece of news for those ones living in Poland, because tomorrow will be very nice and sunny. No showers will appear, and the maximum temperature will be 21 degrees in the area of Krakow. 20 degrees will be seen in Katowice, 19 in Wrocław, Zielona Góra, and the coolest will be 14 degrees in the northeast. This is all for tonight. Thank you and see you soon.
The Scouting Association of the Polish Republic was founded on the 12th of February in 1989. At present, the Scouting Association has over 15,000 members. It is an associate member of the Confederation of European Scouts. The Scouting Association is a public benefit organization that was established in 1989. It aims to continue the traditions and educational thought of several generations of Polish Scouts. The roots of the ZHR, or the Scouting Association, date back to 1980, when the Circle of Scouting Instructors was created. Andrzej Małkowski gathered together independent environmental scouts and instructor. The Scouting Association of the Republic is a community of friends, children, youth, and adults who, based on Christian values, through scout leaders, work on themselves to help others. They seek adventure and pursue other elements of the scouting life that educate a person to find a life full of happiness, to be responsible for oneself and for one's fellow citizens, and to take on the challenges of the modern world.
Welcome to Poland Daily Culture. Today's episode will start a new series about scouting in Poland. My today's guest is Barbara Koc. Hello and welcome to Poland Daily Culture.
Hello.
And what do you think is the biggest challenge on a trip like this?
Największym wyzwaniem, ciężko powiedzieć, ale w przypadku na przykład organizacji obozu...
What is the biggest challenge? It's hard to tell, but when it comes to organizing a camp for younger scouts who go there for the first time, it is something totally different from reality, from everyday life for them. We don't live in a normal society there. We build our own. So for younger scouts, a big challenge is to build themselves shelves.
Żeby po prostu w namiotach przez pierwsze kilka dni budują.
How is it built? With wood or how do you do it?
Budujemy to właśnie z drzew, z żerdek.
We build it with wood, which we buy from the forestry management. Thanks to this, we can build ourselves bed or shelves, and we can live like that for 2 weeks. It is very satisfying where you can live in something you built.
Więc jest to na pewno bardzo satysfakcjonujące, kiedy można mieszkać w czymś, co się samemu zrobiło.
And also the food, you prepare everything by yourself, is that right?
Tak, zgadza się. Generalnie wszystko robimy tam sami.
Yes, we do everything there on our own. Of course, we have people responsible for each thing. A lunch lady who cooks for us, but every unit has its shift and cooks for the whole camp.
Ma swój dyżur w kuchni i gotuje dla całego obozu.
And does it sometimes happen then that a young person thinks it's too much, that it's too difficult and wants to go back home?
Zdarza się tak jak najbardziej, że osoby po prostu wyjeżdżają.
It happens, but not that often. But if someone feels the atmosphere, then there are not many people who want to go back home.
Jest niewiele osób, które po prostu stwierdzają, że chcą wyjechać.
And who do you think is mostly beneficial from scouting? Because I know that it involves a lot of helping people, being a patriot and just being involved in all the things that happen in the country. But who do you think has the most benefits from it?
Ciężko powiedzieć dokładnie kto, bo ja myślę, że jakby każdy z harcerstwa...
It's hard to tell who exactly. Every scout takes something for himself. Me, as a scouting instructor, like I said before, I learned a lot from older scouts. They taught me some values. Now I can give all that to other people. It helped me build my character, shaped it. I think younger scouts, when they start their adventure, they shape their character. Polish teenagers, Polish young people really benefit from it. They want to improve. They're very ambitious. We want to teach them how to achieve goals. Don't give up and challenge yourself. We also help other people. So at the same time, other people benefit from it as well.
Jakby automatycznie też korzystają z tego inne osoby, którym my pomagamy.
During Holy Mass on World Youth Day in Krakow, Pope Francis announced that Panama would be the next host for a world meeting of Scouts. A meeting in the Southern Hemisphere was a distant target for the ZHR Scouts from Poland. The president of Panama, appreciating the involvement of ZHR in medical security, invited their representatives to meet. Participation in World Youth Day on the border between the Americas, that is Panama, between North and South America, and being in Central America is a perfect place for this gathering. The entire Polish scouting organization, in particular the Scout Volunteer Ambulance Service, are preparing themselves for this event.
And you mentioned that you're an instructor scout. What does that exactly mean? What is your role?
Instruktor harcerski to jest...
A scouting instructor is a person who raises other people. So being a scouting instructor, I have the authority to educate younger scouts.
aby wychowywać też właśnie młodszych harcerzy czy harcerki.
I would like to also ask you about the white service called Biała Służba. What is it exactly about?
Biała służba jest to...
The white service concerns church events, especially the important ones, like canonizations, beatifications, the Poland White Youth Meeting in Lednica. I took part in the white service during beatification of Pope John Paul II in Rome. We went there and we were there as scouts to tell people about him.
Żeby też świadczyć o Janie Pawle II.
How do you feel that you're serving God, or is there a special service to God in being a scout?
W Związku Harcerstwa Rzeczypospolitej na pewno...
In the Scouting Association of the Republic, we are all believers. We try to get out scouts closer to God, but also we want to deepen our faith. This is the most important service to God. Also, we serve God by helping other people. We help others, and that's how we serve God.
I przez to też dzięki temu możemy służyć Bogu.
And how do you feel that you help the country? Because I think it also, for people who are watching us from abroad, they don't really know much about scouting in Poland, and it's such a beautiful thing. How do you think it makes a benefit to the country in general?
We are trying to commemorate many historical events, and that's how we serve our country. It's very important for us. We want people to know that history. We want to celebrate national holidays together. One of these events is the anniversary of the Warsaw Uprising. During this event, many scouts are standing on the streets of Warsaw, for example. We try to be together at the Powązki Cemetery, or to stand together beside the Warsaw Uprising monument. And by our presence, we want to show that we remember about our heroes.
Pamiętamy o bohaterach.
So, to finish, I'll just ask you about maybe one thing that you like the most in what you do.
Ciężko jest wybrać chyba taką rzecz, którą najbardziej lubię.
It's hard to choose just one thing that I like the most. I think the service itself, because everything else is just connected to this. This service is something very satisfying, something I can learn from, and something that shapes my character.
Czego mogę się uczyć? Coś, co też kształtuje mój charakter.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are at Hotel Europejski, one of the most expensive hotels in all of Poland. The secret to keeping such a prestigious status relies on preserving history and providing luxurious accommodation. Today we will learn more about one of the most exclusive jewels of Warsaw.
Our guest today is Mr. Ksawery Wąsowski, a direct descendant of Aleksander Przeździecki, who decided to build Warsaw's first luxury hotel of international standards in 1855. After returning to Poland from the US in the early 90s, Mr. Wąsowski has been documenting the long and interesting history of Hotel Europejski.
As I know, the hotel was struck by the bombs during air raids while the Germans invaded Poland during World War II. But due to some creative thinking and a little bit of thinking outside the box, the hotel was saved. And I was wondering if you can tell me the story behind that.
Yeah, outside the box, inside the bathtub, literally. All the bathtubs were filled with water. The hotel director, Bolesław Kosiński, instructed for this to take place. Fortunately, before the water mains were bombed and no running water was in Warsaw. So when the firebombs did indeed land on the roof of the hotel and it caught fire, the hotel employees, using bucket brigades, took the water from the bathtubs and put out the fire. So this saved the hotel in the initial attack on Warsaw in September of 1939.
So like it essentially created like a water reservoir in the bathtubs, and as I know, there are numerous bathtubs in the entire hotel, created enough supply to put out the fire.
At that point, there was 250 rooms, each with their own bathtub. So yes, that was a sizable reservoir of water.
But later on during the occupation, when Germany took over Poland, the hotel also serves a specific function, right?
Exactly. The German army, the Wehrmacht, decided that the hotel would be a hotel exclusively for their officers. The soldiers were not housed here, only the officers. So the high-ranking officials, they decided to keep the Polish staff on, the ones that knew the building, the technical aspects. And we have some memoirs of some of the employees that stayed on, including the hotel director, who I mentioned before. So through their memoirs, we know many of the details that went on inside the hotel.
So during World War II, at the time, the hotel serves almost as an oasis of a sort for not only the Germans, but also for the Poles. And I was wondering how that came to be.
Well, for the Poles, in a more minor aspect, they had their Kenkarte, so their ability to work and to go into this area of Warsaw, which was a German exclusive zone. So they had their jobs, and they held on to that. For the Germans, it was more of an opportunistic aspect of war in general. The hotel was a oasis in the fact that they had a comfortable place to stay. They had plentiful food, which was brought here by Poles who were instructed to do so. So the Poles also took advantage of this to siphon off part of that food. So there was a lot of opportunities for the Poles and the Germans. For the Poles, it began with the fact that they could actually work. So they had their Kenkarte. This was an important document allowing them to travel to this part of Warsaw because it was cut off for the rest. It was just a German exclusive zone. So opportunities for the Germans were such that this was the place where they could relax, obviously. Once the Germans attacked the Soviet Union in 1941, Warsaw was the way station to the Eastern Front in going towards the east or coming back from the front. They would have their rest and relaxation in a hotel, to the point where a lot of them liked it so much here that they would do anything to stay longer, including sabotaging any efforts to send them back to the front.
Right.
In the memoirs I've read, one officer who, anytime he would get a notice to go back to the front to appear at the railroad station, he would just get drunk. And he would be in no condition to be sent to the front. And he would do this several times until finally, after several weeks of extending his stay, he was finally sent, never to be heard from again. Yeah, so stealing from the supplies that were delivered to the hotel, and also opportunity to hide people.
Right.
This was a big hotel. Lots of spaces, lots of hiding places. The Poles who were employed here used it to their advantage and to the advantage of people that were running away from the Germans, including Russian escaped prisoners and Jews.
Right.
There were incidences of this happening throughout the hotel. I recently found out about a specific person who I met in New York, who, as a young girl with her mother, was living here in the hotel under assumed Christian names. They had been baptized, and unbeknownst to anyone in the hotel, including the hotel director, they were living inside here. The reason being, the mother, being a perfect German translator. The Volksdeutsch German who was in charge of the hotel didn't speak so well, so she was employed to do all the official translations. And here, hiding under the noses of the Germans, they lived. and she lived to tell the tale, the daughter and the mother. So yes, there was opportunities all around. For war, there was always people that find ways of getting more than what is officially allowed.
Hotel Europejski became somewhat of an oasis for German soldiers, the Polish staff, Jews and Russian POWs, albeit for very different reasons for each of them. The beautiful interior and abundance of food and hard-to-find luxury products made the war seem very distant in the hotel. However, in reality, no place was unaffected by the war, and Poles often had to bribe or extort Germans in order to survive or save the life of others.
During the World War time, there was a lot of effort on the Poles' side of sheltering the Jews, and seeing that this is such a big building, there's plenty of nooks and crannies, I guess, that provided sufficient shelter. And do you have any stories in that regards of how the Poles were able to shelter some of the Jews under the nose of the German soldiers?
So we have the memoirs of several wartime employees, Poles that worked here, that wrote about the fact that Jews and runaway Russian soldiers were hidden in various places, in the attic, in the basements. There were areas in the hotel that the Germans simply had no need to go to.
Right.
Rumors of this caught wind of the German commander that was in charge of the building. And at one point he called in one of the very trusted Polish employees, and he said, look, you know, I'm hearing these stories that we have Jews being hidden here. What do you know about this? And the Polish gentleman, Józef Szelong, writes that he said basically, you know, reminded the German commander that, is it really worth his while to make a big fuss about this, seeing as how the Poles know about his indiscretions with women living with him in his hotel room, combined with the fact that his family, his wife and his children lived in Konstancin. So maybe this wouldn't be such a topic that needed to be drudged up so much.
Right.
And also, Poles had their ways of eliminating Germans outside on the street or in other areas. The German knew he was sitting on a nice nest for himself, that maybe he shouldn't ruffle the feathers, to follow the analogy.
So during the 1944's the Warsaw Uprising, this part of the city was not really a heavy place in terms of combat, but the hotel still suffers some damages, and I was wondering how that came about.
Exactly. It's a misconception that the hotel was damaged during the uprising. No. This did not take place. The closest fighting that took place was the Holy Cross Church on one end of Krakowskie Przedmieście and the Stare Miasto on the other. This was a German exclusive zone. This was the most fortified area in Warsaw by the Germans, so no actual fighting took place here. When the uprising ended and the Germans were evacuating or preparing to evacuate, looting the city, right. The contents of the hotel most likely at that point as well were looted. I have found aerial photographs by the Luftwaffe in the National Archives in the US, which show weekly or daily bombings that took place after the uprising. And I was able to establish approximate dates of the destruction of the hotel. The hotel was burned in December of 1944, so it was left as an empty shell, and the aerial photographs show this. And this corner, facing the presidential palace, was not destroyed until the second week of January, meaning about a week before the so-called liberation by the Russians of Warsaw. So that's when it was destroyed.
Hotel Europejski has 150 years and counting of very interesting history. And the fact that the history is preserved and the personal touch of the place is what gave it the standard for the best hotel in Poland and has set the standard ever since. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Hello and welcome to Poland Daily. We're on an excursion to the city of Łódź. It's right in the center of the country. Known as the Polish Manchester, it's a city of art and industry. And that's where we are for this series of episodes. Łódź is famous for factories making all kinds of things, as we'll see. In its heyday, it supplied textiles to the whole of Europe. In post-World War II Poland, Łódź also became a factory of dreams. It was the site of the Warsaw Film School at Łódź, and it earned the city the sobriquet of Hollywood. That's right, the Hollywood of Poland. The film school produced such top talents as Roman Polanski, Andrzej Wajda, and Krzysztof Kieślowski, and many others, as we'll see. There are more superlatives in this city, about 75 miles southwest of Warsaw, the capital. Łódź boasts the largest shopping center in Poland, Manufaktura. It's made out of an old factory complex. That's the largest shopping center in Poland. It also boasts the longest pedestrian street in the country, Piotrkowska, where you will find all manner of restaurants, clubs, and just about everything else you'd expect on a pedestrian street, including a statue of Arthur Rubinstein, the famous pianist who was from Łódź. And the pièce de résistance, marrying both technology and art, is the Science and Technology Museum next to the railway station. This is a world-class museum. It looks like something that belongs in the Smithsonian Institution. It's interactive and impressive. That's Łódź, and that's where we are on Poland Daily Travel, your destination for perhaps the best travel about Poland you'll find anywhere. Poland Daily Travel. Like us on YouTube and like us on Facebook. We like you. Watch us now.
Hello, everybody, and we're on the road to Łódź. It's Poland Daily Travel. That's right, we're standing on the motorway, and we only have about half an hour to get there. It's very exciting. Hopefully the sun is going to come out. We're going to be seeing a lot of things. We're going to be seeing the Łódź Film School. We're going to take a walk down Piotrkowska Street, which is the longest shopping street in the whole country, I believe. At least that's what they say. We're going to go to Manufaktura, one of the largest converted shopping centers. It's a series of old factories, and it's many. It's like 30 football fields worth of infrastructure there, with a great hotel called the Vienna Hotel, a museum, and a huge shopping area. You're going to love to see some of that. We'll be joined by various friends today in Łódź, Łódźites, people who live in Łódź. Łódźowcy, I think they're called in Polish. We're going to see the new train station. We're going to go to the Technology Museum. We are going to go, oh yes, we're going to go to the greatest restaurant and bar area called Off Piotrkowska. Remember Piotrkowska, that great long street in the center of Łódź, where all the action happens. Łódź, it's a huge city. Hollywood, it's called. It's also called the Polish Manchester because of its rich history of manufacturing. And in fact, there are still many areas of Łódź which exist as they have for a couple of centuries at least during the industrial period. It's a beautiful city, also the home, I might mention, of the great pianist Arthur Rubinstein. That's right, Arthur Rubinstein from Łódź, and he follows in the tradition of Chopin as a pianist, of Ignacy Paderewski, Ignacy Paderewski, let me say it right, the famous Polish pianist of the early 20th century, and Arthur Rubinstein later. So there's a lot ahead, a lot of excitement, a lot of guests, and a lot of things to see. On the road to Łódź. Stay with us. Poland Daily Travel. Why do we do it? We do it for you. Stay with us. Well, there are a lot of things to do in Łódź, I can tell you that. And one of the things you have to do is come to Piotrowska Street. And particularly where I am, in Piotrowska Street, is by the outside of Arthur Rubinstein's family home. The nice dogs going by, having a lot of fun with a kid on a skateboard. So it's a very lively street. This is one of the longest streets in the entire country. It goes on for a number of kilometers. Next to me is a facsimile of Mr. Rubinstein himself, who is one of the great pianists of the 20th century. And in a line of great Polish pianists, Chopin, Paderewski, before him. Chopin, of course, one of the greatest composers of ever. I was going to say of all time, but it sounds more like a sports figure. But Chopin, of course, the great composer. You also have Paderewski, who was not only a great concert pianist, but the Prime Minister of Poland at the end of the First World War, when Poland was recreated. But Mr. Rubinstein here gave innumerable concerts throughout the world, contributed many types of music to in many different genres. And I believe that still one of his family lives here. His daughter Eva is an acquaintance, and she, of course, is a well-known photographer. At any rate, here we are with Mr. Rubinstein, appropriately in front of his house on this most exciting street, Piotrowska in Łódź. We've got a lot of fun in store. A lot of episodes have taken place since I gave you the introduction. And stay tuned for those. We're going to take you to a lot of fine places in Łódź. Poland Daily Travel from Łódź. Enjoy, and thanks for being with us. Poland Daily Travel. I'm on top of the world in Łódź. That's right. We're way up here on the top of a cooling tower or something. That's what they told me. I feel like James Cagney in White Heat. I'm on top of the world, Ma.
Top of the world!
I'm on top of the world. See? Poland Daily Travel. Watch us. We're watching you.